Good afternoon, everyone, and firstly, a big thank you for taking the time to join us. I appreciate we're at 3:15, the sun is shining, so the fact that you've not ducked out at that last refreshment break is much appreciated. So as a quick introduction to myself before I hand over to my colleague Sharon, my name's Ben Hardy. I'm a stakeholder and engagement lead within the school's commercial team. I will come on shortly at the second half of the presentation today to talk through a bit more about what we do in the school's commercial team, and it's really good to see quite a few familiar faces as well from some of our roundtable events up and down the country, so it's great to see you here with us as well today. And as I said, I'm joined by my colleague Sharon, who is Head of Nature Park and Climate Leaders Award, and we will touch on that very shortly as well. So what we are keen to cover off in today's session is that we will talk through the department's sustainability and climate change strategy. And then I will come back on and I will talk about the DFE schools commercial team more broadly and our support for schools as part of the school resource management offer. And then I will be then talking about routes to market and available support for buying energy and energy efficiency measures. And what we'll do is as well, we'll build in around 10 minutes at the end of today's sessions for any questions, and we'll also be around for the rest of the day at our stand downstairs. So if you do want to come and grab us at any point, then please do. I'll now hand over to Sharon for the first part of this session, and then I'll be back on, and then we'll do all of the questions at the end in one go, if that's okay.
So great. Just to introduce myself, I'm Sharon McHale in the newly formed Sustainability and Climate Change Unit within Department for Education. And I'm going to talk a bit about how we're embedding all this within the teaching and learning offer as well. Ben will talk a bit more about energy procurement, etc. But we're in the business of teaching and learning. And part of the trick of all this is making sure it's a whole setting, a whole school approach, a whole mat approach, and that everyone's engaged in what we're trying to do. So one of the first things we've done is we've created a new strategy for education and children's services, and that's new for us in Department for Education. We launched that now about a year ago, and it covers a number of areas. We're covering how we prepare young people for a changing economy. And we hear a lot about that, but it's very real. And we're starting to feel that now, aren't we? You know, what's in demand? Knowledge and skills about renewables, tidal, solar, bioscience, big data science. So what can we do within our education system to make sure we're preparing young people for those new opportunities, and particularly preparing young people in areas of disadvantage as well, so that they get the opportunities to take up some of these new green opportunities. We've also got a massive footprint in our education estate. If we think about just the footprint of schools altogether, they make up an area over twice the size of Birmingham. If you factored in higher education, nurseries, FE colleges within that, we actually have a massive estate. And we're one of the biggest emitters in the public sector. And in fact, if we factored in the associated travel with that as well, about 1 in 5 journeys are somehow related on the roads to education. We have a big part to play in solving some of the challenges we face around climate change and biodiversity. And we also need to make sure our estate is resilient to climate change. Last year, we'll all remember some of those hottest days of the year. And if those had hit the exam season, how prepared would we have been about some of that? So thinking about, you know, our estate and its vulnerability to climate change and these weather events as we go forward is part of that strategy as well. And then, you know, we're also about making sure that we increase that biodiversity of our estate as well, which seems a sort of, some people might think it's a bit of a sideline topic. Actually, we're one of the most nature depleted countries in Europe. And we really need to focus on our pollinator plants and our biodiversity as well. Not all of you will have estates with rolling fields, of course not. I've spent a long career building a lot of schools, and I know how landlocked a lot of you are. But actually, if we put together all those little marginal pieces of land and their potential for biodiversity, again, thinking about that size of Birmingham slot, we can actually make a difference to halting the decline of biodiversity. So we've launched our strategy. Do have a look at that on our web pages. It's quite detailed in all the things we're trying to do around travel, procurement, estate management, food wastage, and it might give you some ideas in developing your own strategy going forward. What we're keen to do is that, this features in SLTs, in MATs as well. We see corporates appointing heads of sustainability who are overseeing their action plans in this area. So, again, something to think about the prominence of this within your own organisations. It's stepping up. It's going to be part of our futures now, about our accountability for our emissions and our biodiversity. Just moving on to the next slide there. Here I'm going to talk about some of the work we're doing in our capital strategy to explore the very real challenges I know you're facing in your estate. We've got an ageing estate, and I know a lot of you are facing a lot of challenges. And when we think about retrofitting the estate to improve our emissions and improve our conditions, it's not an easy piece. We've got lots of different typologies of buildings out there. Where do you start? What's the hierarchy of interventions? What technologies do you invest in that are going to have longevity, that are really going to give you the returns on those energy savings? So I'm just flagging a few of the projects that we're involved in here. Again, if you want more detail, look at our website on that. We have some projects where we're working with a group of what we call resilient schools, where we are exploring with them in Bradford the sort of different retrofit solutions that might have an impact in different situations as well. And looking at what outcomes we're having. Yes, of course, about energy, but also about the health and well-being of the young people and the teachers in those settings. So have a look about what we're doing on resilient schools. St Mary's Schools, that's going to be one of our, that's opened recently, or about to open, and it's one of our first biophilic schools. And that's about how we engage with nature and make our outside areas more of the teaching and learning offer that we offer to young people. I don't know if some of you participated recently in our outdoor classroom day, but more and more research about the benefits of teaching outside and making that more of your offer as well. Again, not everyone's got, the opportunity to do that, but even in smaller areas, you can create opportunities there for teaching and learning. I'll talk a bit more about that later as well. And we've got pilots where we're looking at things like sustainability pods. How can these be retrofitted into Victorian primary buildings? What can we do about sort of literally clicking technology into some of those buildings without a massive rebuild? So I'm not going to ignore the challenges that a lot of you are facing on your estate today, but what I'm flagging here is we're trying to learn through pilots, working with schools about, when you do get hold of resources, what's the best intervention, the one that's going to have the longevity for you. So do have a look at those if you get a chance. And then I said, it is important to have that whole schools approach, isn't it? Because behaviour change isn't going to solve all your energy needs, but it is part of the equation there. It needs to be part of the teaching and learning offer. And what we're developing to roll out in 2025 is a new natural history GCSE. So that will talk very much about sustainability, biodiversity, climate change, and might be of interest to your maths and your schools. And also we're offering up much more teaching and learning resources and CPD opportunities for teachers so that they can grow their skills around this area. And that's because we're hearing ever more from teachers that there is anxiety from young people and a thirst to know, and that they need support in this area. And we're also running a number of T-levels, apprenticeships and skills boot camps now that are available in areas where we know there's going to be growing demand in these new economies, be that solar panels, be that heat pumps. There are lots of opportunities now to give a wider offer to young people developing their skills. And just to give a plug, in September, we've got our International Green Skills Conference. Some of our higher education offers and research in the UK is genuinely world leading. And we'll be showcasing what we're doing in that territory, and also reaching further down into schools, how we're preparing the workforce for the future, because that makes a difference towards investment and opportunities coming our way. And then just to delve down in one particular initiative that you might be interested in, we are working with the Natural History Museum and its partners on a new National Education Nature Park. And what does that mean? That means from this autumn, the museum will be providing toolkits and advice to schools, colleges, nurseries about how you can enhance the biodiversity and teaching and learning potential of your outside areas. They're already working with pathfinders in the West Midlands and Manchester, a good variety of schools in all sorts of settings, including very urban, very landlocked settings in areas of disadvantage. And their portal, I'll give you the link in a second, will increasingly have ideas, case studies, things you can do that will make an impact no matter what the typology of your setting. And the idea is it is very much an opportunity for us to increase the biodiversity of our settings, but also for young people to develop those skills that we need. So, for example, young people will be using geospatial mapping to record the biodiversity of their estate as it is, and also how it improves over time. There'll be opportunities to talk and webinars and such to really leading research scientists in this area. We'll also be running alongside that the Climate Action Awards, and these will be available for right through the age range, where you as a setting can get recognition for the offers that you make available to your children and young people in terms of sustainability and climate change education, and approach the Natural History Museum according to their framework to be accredited at different levels on the Climate Action Awards, so that you can show to your young people and parents what you are doing as a setting. So lots of new opportunities coming through in the autumn to engage with some of this. I know it's a challenge because you've got a lot on at the moment, haven't you? Of course you have. We do have some money behind this. We recently launched £15 million that is being targeted at the most disadvantaged, nature-depleted areas. Again, when I give you the QR code, you can have a look at the eligibility criteria. And that is literally to help settings buy raised planting beds or whatever gear they might need to enhance their outdoor learning areas. So a new initiative seems to really resonate with young people who are very passionate about this agenda. And if you want to find out more, There's the QR code. Have a look. So I hope that gives you context, really, that we're very much embedding this within the teaching and learning offer, and that can deliver some savings for you. We do know that where the whole school is involved and they get visible data on their emissions, their energy consumption, and it's part of the way the setting operates, it can deliver significant cash savings as well as the teaching and learning offer. And I flagged in one of those pilots the Energy Sparks charity, who do work with schools and others to give you, your leadership teams, visible readouts on energy usage, for example. And I've seen some settings and mats who actually display that in their reception areas. The conversation that generates at SLT, but also amongst the young people, and if it's part of your Climate Action Awards and your curriculum offer, it can help you on your journey around saving money, as well as saving the planet, of course. So I'll pause there and hand over to Ben.
Thanks, Sharon. So we'll move on now to the part of the session where I'm going to talk about predominantly routes to market for buying energy, as well as buying energy efficiency measures. But before I go into the specifics around that, and then the support that's available, particularly through Get Help Buying for Schools service, which some of you may have just been to the previous session on, what I'll do is I'll give you a bit of a flavour as well about other areas of work that we do within the school's commercial team. So please do feel free to come up and grab me about anything that I'm going to cover off now as well at the end of the session, because there might be other parts that you've already heard about or are interested in, and I'd be more than happy to speak with you about those today. So in terms of the broader picture and the context of where we fit into the school resource management programme, we are just there in the getting the best value from your non-staff expenditure. So essentially anything that isn't the staff salaries, anything that you're spending within your school around that non-staff piece, that is where we are there to support, and that's an area that we do through lots of different ways. And again, as I said, Kevin's already talked through Get Help Buying for Schools, but we've got lots of other tools and support that's available for you in your school or your academy trust that we are able to support you with. So in terms of, this has been touched on quite a few times already today around the DFE approved frameworks. And we know that we've touched on it as well, that at times using a framework can be complicated, and knowing which framework to use can be complicated. So what we've done is that we've got over 60 now DFE approved frameworks that are across a range of areas of spend. So it's not just energy, although that's what we're going to take a bit of a deeper dive in today. There's also frameworks for IT. I know that in this morning's main session there was discussion around MIS, and there are a couple of approved options on there as well for that if you are looking in that space. You can either look at them as a whole list and go through by area, or there is also the Find a Framework tool, which can take you through. You can hone in on the area of spend that you're looking through, and then it will take you through to maybe 2 or 3 options depending on the area, and that's where the then Get Help Buying for Schools service can come in. If you're still unsure and want some additional support around which of those frameworks to use, then I'll talk on a little bit about that service towards the end of the session as well. In terms of what you might know us for as well, so the RPA, or the risk protection arrangement, is our alternative to commercial insurance. So that is currently £23 per pupil for that. We run bespoke sessions on RPA and webinars quite regularly, so I'm not going to go into that today, but that is our team. So you'll get our contact details afterwards. So if there's anybody, I've already had quite a few discussions with people, and I can see some people in this room as well that I've already had the discussions with. So if you do want to talk about that further, then we are the people to come to discuss that with. And then finally, how do we do this? So I sit as part of a team. So as we said, we're in the school's commercial team, but we're really proud that we are part of an engagement and outreach team, and we are front facing out there, up and down across the country, and we are so keen to come out and speak with schools, academy trusts, whole local authorities about the support that we can offer, but also take feedback as well from the sector to make sure that what we continue to deliver meets the needs of you in your school, and where we can best support. So we do this through a range of ways. We've got ongoing webinars where we look at more in-depth focus on particular frameworks and talk through those. We run face-to-face school business professional roundtables up and down the country. So last year we ran about 14 of those across pretty much all corners of the country as a pilot, and we're going to continue with those next year. And I can see a couple of people in this room that did come to those as well. But we've also got something that I want to talk about, and I suppose it's a bit of a plea for you today to let me know if you're all part of a school business professional network. So we really champion the benefits of being part of a school business professional network, and you'll have already seen in different sessions probably Nina Siddle from Humber and East Yorkshire, who was talking through that, and Debbie Beezer. I've seen James Paverley from Wiltshire, and we've got Pauline at the front here as well, who's one of our network leaders from Schools North East as well. So we are huge advocates of the importance of peer-to-peer support of these networks, and we bring together network leaders from across the country on a termly basis to get feedback from those network leaders on initiatives that we're looking at, and also to kind of say what's coming up and what's going to be coming from the school's commercial team in advance. So if you're not part of a network, I would encourage you to do that, and I would encourage you to go to gov.uk and go on the Find Us SBP network to have a look at that. And again, you can just grab me afterwards if you want to talk about anything in particular. And if you're part of a network that isn't on there as well, we would love to hear from you. So we've got about 80% of all local authorities now have a known school business professional network, and we'll keep going on that until we get the 100. So what I'm going to spend the next 5 to 10 minutes on is going through, initially I'll go just an overview about routes to market for DFE approved frameworks for buying energy. I'll then move on to the energy efficiency measures. I'll then talk about additional support on top of the approved frameworks from Get Help Buying for Schools. And then we will very much open it up to the floor for questions for both myself and Sharon. I'll not run through each of these frameworks in detail, and there is another page as well. So the idea behind putting these on is that you'll get all of these slides afterwards. They're all hyperlinked through to, so you can have a look at them. But what I would stress is this isn't a static list. So we are constantly looking at alternative options that are out and available at the market. We're constantly responding to the needs of the sector. So what I would do is I'd encourage you to keep going back to the Finder framework as well, but probably go to Get Help Buying for Schools as well if you want that additional support, which I'll touch on. But we've got a range of options that are available. So whether you are looking for, I know a lot of schools and trusts are really keen to have that fixed agreement because they want that long-term certainty to be able to forecast, but we are starting to see a number of schools and trusts moving towards that flexible model, particularly with what has happened over the last 2 years, and looking at different rates than that. We have a combination of fixed and flexible options for schools. And I'll just move on to this one here, and also additional fuel types as well. I've spoke to a handful of schools this morning that have been explaining to me that they don't get energy through maybe traditional routes, and they have different ways of doing that, particularly through liquid fuels, petroleum. So we do have options available for that as well. So that's kind of what's available in terms of those routes to market for energy. We've got lots of options available. I'll go on to Get Help Buying for Schools, but if you are in need of support with energy, please do contact us. We've got it's a free and impartial service that's there to support you with the procurement of your energy and other areas of support as well. And I would just say my takeaway would be, if you're starting to look at this, even if it's for next September, and Kevin will probably nod, if you're starting to look at it, the earlier you can get in with any procurement and the most advanced notice that you can give us is the better, really. So in terms of support with energy efficiency, this was touched on earlier in one of this morning's sessions, I think in the main session this morning. So as you'll all be aware, and I would expect everybody probably in this room is more than aware, that in December 2022, the government announced that we were investing 500 million in terms of being able to support state schools and colleges with energy efficiency upgrades. So the top 3 actions that were listed as part of this guidance were around making sure that you understand energy usage and the energy audit side of things. And I think Sharon's touched on some of the benefits of that as well, beyond the saving money, but also about the behaviour change within schools and the way that people think about this. It's then using that energy audit to encourage good practices across the school estate and the trusts. And then finally, it is to implement and manage these proposed interventions to ultimately reduce energy consumption. Within this guidance, which again we do link through to here, it did outlay like those ways that you could look to reduce your energy consumption, and then it particularly focused in on certain areas such as heating, hot water, lighting and technology. So what we do in terms of schools commercial teams, so what we have done is we have made sure that there are routes to market for you if you are looking to spend this funding. What we've got is a range of frameworks. So again, as I said, you'll get these slides and we will link through to all of the options that are available for you. But we have approved frameworks that are available for you to use around building supplies, energy performance of building services, which is essentially your energy audits. There's an option on there for LED lighting as well as low energy lamps, light fittings, lighting projects, and renewable energy solutions as well. So all of that is already ready for you. You can go on there, they're all approved. You can use the framework if you're familiar with that. But like I say, this is probably my big takeaway from this session is that we are here to support you, and there is a free and there is an impartial service that can support you with this on the way. We know that it's difficult. We know that it can be complicated at times, and we want to make sure that we support you through that process. So I don't know how many of you were already in Kevin's sessions and heard the full half an hour on Get Help Buying for Schools, so I'll not repeat all of that within this 5-minute window that I've got before questions. But essentially, if you're looking for support on buying something, we have got an in-house team of procurement experts that can support you through that process. We will work alongside you to make sure that you're compliant, to make sure that you get best value, and to make sure that we look at options out there. And it might be as well, the team do have the capability to not just use the DFE approved frameworks as well. So I thought what was really interesting at the end of Kevin's session was a question around maybe smaller suppliers in your locality, and then how does that tie into your social values as a school and a trust, because you want to use local SMEs. Well, we are able to do bespoke procurements for you that look at that. You can come back and say, actually, the local suppliers that we want to be working with aren't on these national frameworks because they're not big enough, or they've told us that they can't access them. So what I would say is, don't let that stop you. You can come to us and let us know, and we will support you through that process. In terms of keeping in touch with us, we'll make sure that we circulate our contact details. So as a team within engagement and outreach, we are really passionate about making sure that we come out and deliver as many events and conferences and network meetings up and down the country as possible. I know we're going along to the Schools North East conference next week, and we've been doing lots of activity across the country. So if after today's session you want to focus on a particular area in more detail, if you're part of a network group and would like us to come and speak to you either in person or virtually, then please do just pick up the phone and let us know. You can keep in touch with us through our LinkedIn page. So for any of you that are on LinkedIn, if you just search Buying for Schools, you can follow us on there, and you'll see lots of our posts about upcoming framework webinars. I would also encourage you to sign up to the School Business Professional newsletter, as well as the ESFA update if you're not already, because there's a lot of information and content that will support you in your role that goes out through those. And then finally, if you'd like to subscribe subscribe to our blog, you can do that. So we put maybe 2 posts a month on there across a range of initiatives that we're doing across the school's commercial team and beyond. So that is everything from me. More than happy to take the floor for questions now, or afterwards, more than happy to have a phone call or a meeting with you afterwards. I can see a few faces where we met not too long ago and we've already had several conversations trying to unpick a few things. So we are there for you at the end of the phone if you need it. I think we've got a roving mic at the back, and I think we've probably got 5 minutes for questions, have we? So just stunned silence, that's ideal. Have we got a question at the front as well? Yeah.
Is this on? Yep, sorry. It was intentional me having this as well, sorry, Ben. It was a question for, was it Sharon? Hello. I just want to say I think a natural history GCSE is marvellous. Just including that I think is absolutely brilliant. I wanted to ask what a biophilic school is.
Well,
I hope I pronounced it correctly as well.
It's new, and but soon you might be able to go visit it. It's very much how we incorporate nature into its design and function in a much more integrated way. So I spent the last 5 years building schools, and landscaping is obviously a bit of that. But, you know, exactly where do you plant those trees that cast the shadows over the classrooms, that's got the glass in it, that you put the vents in, that if you open that back door, the wind comes through and it naturally cools. A very clever way of designing schools so that it heats and cools itself and incorporates nature as a teaching and learning space, and really explore that in a top-of-the-range build, which we're not all going to experience. But at least if we sort of know the potential and explore the science and architecture and design of the potential, should money come our way, we know where to go. So that's the idea of a biophilic school.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think we had a question down there.
Ben, for you, you referenced something called Guidance for Schools and Colleges on energy reduction, but it looked like it was a hyperlink. What is that guidance called?
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll share these slides, and as I said, it is hyperlinked, but you'll go straight through to that guidance, and it's all there. So it came out alongside the additional capital funding. Anything else? So I think that's everything. So just a big thank you for coming along to the session today. As I said, if there is anything that we can support you with, please do get in touch with us. We'll circulate contact details along with this slide deck afterwards. And just a huge thank you as well for everything that you do day in, day out. Like I say, we work really closely with lots of school business professionals across the country, and the work that you do is amazing and makes such a big difference. So from us and from the school's commercial team and the department, just a big thank you for everything that you do.